Welcome to Proust My Startup, the podcast that offers you a glimpse at the personalities of the people that make the local startup ecosystem in Malaysia. I'm Vanessa Muledus, aka Brand Shifu with an H on Instagram, the founder of North Branding Consulting Boutique Agency. I'm a brand strategist, 24/7 immersed by the sides of entrepreneurs, startups, and SME founders. As a brand consultant, a mentor, but also an entrepreneur program facilitator, an investment jury, and a business angel. In Proust My Startup, I want to really discover who are the people that make our local startup ecosystem. Because I'm a brand strategist, I want to understand how their personal brand might influence or shape the corporate brand of their organization. Today's episode is recorded from CloudMile's Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Startups thrive on innovation, and CloudMile is here to fuel that journey. As a leading AI and cloud technology company in Asia, they help businesses drive digital transformation and growth, leveraging machine learning, big data, and cloud solutions. With a team made up of certified technical experts and a strong network of technology partners, including being one of just 40 Google Cloud Managed Services providers globally, CloudMile has supported more than 1,200 companies through consulting, technical, and managed services. I've seen it firsthand with my own mentees, tech startup founders. The Center of Excellence in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, now offers startups a collaborative space to explore generative AI, data management, security, and more, and advance their digital competitiveness with cloud and AI adoption. So if, like them, you want to experience it yourself, visit today my.cloud. Hi, Dr. Ashweein. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm really glad to have you over because we're bumping into each other's in the ecosystem.
Yes.
Next year camp last year, events where I can see you from afar because before Ash had a very singular hairdo, nice one, not to say not nice one, but one that would at least help us remember you
Yes.
very easily.
Yes.
So he had like
I had a little like hairdo, haircut, I don't know if
yeah.
I want to call it a glow up. But
I don't know, but
I
it
just
was
wanted
very
to give it a
singular,
change.
and you
Yeah.
always had, often had, always not always, often had, sorry, some kind of local
Beats.
yeah,
Yeah.
right?
So we call that from Sarawak because I'm from Kuching, Sarawak. So we have this thing called the Kabo,
Okay.
Kabo.
Yeah.
So there's an ethnic, like a group of ethnics called the Orang Ulu,
Okay. Yeah.
mainly either the Kayan, Kenyah, or Kelabit. So under one of those, communities, I've kind of been adopted by them as
Okay.
well. So sometimes when I'm really wanting to represent Sarawak, I would wear my Kabo.
There you go.
Basically.
So I've been intrigued by you actually over the time because of that particular look. And I was telling you there are two co-founders as well in the ecosystem that have also attributes, local roots attributes.
Yep.
So it's always intriguing me as a French because we don't have that. And that helps my memory actually, which is legendary bud with faces and names. So
right.
it helped me a lot actually.
Okay.
So that's why I couldn't recognize you here today when I was passing by in the studio.
It's fine.
Because you changed your hairdo.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
So, for the benefit of the audience, Dr. Ashweein is the co-founder of EB Tech.
Yep.
EB stands for Evolve Brilliance.
Evolving Brilliance.
Evolving, there you go. Tripping all the time. Evolving Brilliance. So EB Tech is actually a land asset management solution using AI, satellite data, ground operations.
Yep.
So basically it's to make it more sustainable from an environment point of view and an economic point of view. Am I right?
We also use this to basically leverage. We leverage of these solutions and technologies to also help us go deeper into carbon project development as well. So a lot of decarbonization work, a lot of like carbon sequestration works are made a lot faster with our solutions, which allows us to also be part of like the carbon development market as well.
Oh yes, correct. Good point. So basically we have an impact startup here. What is really interesting is that last year you were the finalist for the Malaysian chapter of the Startup World Cup,
Mm-hmm.
along with Carbotech. That was one of my guests as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just before we started recording, you were telling me that you reached the semi-finals
Yes.
there. So very
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see that an impact climate tech
Mm-hmm.
startup can reach that level
Right.
and represent Malaysia around the world. So congrats on that.
Thank
There's
you very
so much more
much.
achievement, but
Yeah.
this one
Thank
I
you.
pay
Thank you.
attention because I'm a new mentor at SWC, so
Right.
it's somehow resonating with me even
Mm-hmm.
more.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we start, I would like to ask you, have you ever heard about the Proust questionnaire?
Not really. I mean, I have kind of seen some of your podcasts in snippets
Uh-huh.
on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and sometimes shared in some WhatsApp groups and all of that. So when you did invite me to come on board, I was very interested. And I also took to heart what you told me about like not looking at the previous
Yes.
interviews. I love doing interviews. I love talking about my company. I think amongst all my founders and co-founders, they like to make me the scapegoat to talk about things.
Okay.
I do have a practice of like trying to talk about my company without any ers and ahs and stuff like that, right? So when I got this opportunity, I was really excited to come on board. And yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about like the Proust questionnaire. Yeah.
Perfect. So transitioning onto it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Proust in good French is Proust, is the name of a French philosopher and writer from the 19th, so late 19th and early 20th century.
Okay.
He was called Marcel Proust.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was already famous back then for his writing, his views on the world, and all. And he became even more famous after he died. As a schoolgirl, I was studying him.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, in his time, he was mingling with the aristocratic and intellectual circles.
Okay.
They had a lot of time on their hands, and so they had a lot of times to reflect
Mm-hmm.
on the world and themselves. And so he popularized a game, an indoor game, based out of questions, personal questions
Mm-hmm.
that he deemed would reveal the true nature of someone.
Okay.
So since then, it has been associated to his name, the Proust questionnaire.
I understand.
So this is what we're going to take. Are you ready?
Yeah. Ready?
Okay. So first question is, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Okay, so my idea of perfect happiness is basically a very good stability between our work or what in the Japanese concept of like finding your ikigai
Uh-huh.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. So having like a good mix between your work, your purpose, your hobby, your interest, your passion, and also trying to sort of balance all of that while having a fairly comfortable life, depending on which part of the world that you're living at. So like let's say if I was doing something very well, um, you know, doing pretty good in say a Western country where I'm earning in USD and stuff like that, it makes a lot of sense for me to be a bit of a digital nomad or living somewhere out of Southeast Asia. So I get the benefit of both worlds where
Mm-hmm.
I get a very good currency
Yeah.
supporting what I'm doing, but I find what I'm doing with some purpose, with some impact. It gives me the kind of happiness, and I have time for myself also in that process without getting too drowned into the wrong things.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's my idea of like perfect happiness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, what is your greatest fear?
Okay, so I feel like my greatest fear is two things. I know it's supposed to be one thing, like, cause it's greatest, right? But these two things have always been like, they take turns on which one comes first,
Okay.
depending on the situation. One is the fact that like I might fail the people who like kind of depend on me or who look up to me. All right. And the second thing is about the shame of like being something that I'm not, as contradictory as it seems. One seems like I'm trying to please
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
and the other side is like I'm trying to please nobody but myself.
Mm,
So like the fear of balancing these two and finding like the right kind of like middle ground between it does keep me up some nights and does
I
give me a certain
understand.
level of anxiety
It's
as well.
very much like cultural, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Very much something we can find in Asia, actually,
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
This kind of, yeah, finding yourself within some constraint,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. Now, what is the trait you most deplore in yourself, which means the trait of personality that you wish you would not have, you're not happy
Mm,
with?
Well, I don't know if I'm doing a good job working on it because I think I've practiced doing that for some time. I tend to have this habit that in order to not lose my train of thought or out of excitement, I tend to speak more than I need to the
Okay.
extent that I might interrupt people
Okay.
sometimes, and that's bad. That's
I
really
think I
bad.
can
Yeah.
relate actually. I was
Yeah.
thinking, hey, I think I'm doing the same actually.
So one way to fix it is probably run a podcast, right?
Maybe, maybe. Though you will see, I'm not so talkative this time,
Right,
so
right, right. Yeah. So that's the
happily.
thing as well. For me, I think like I do thank like my co-founders who I constantly remind them to say that like, hey, just pinch me a little bit if I don't shut up. Like I would need some reminders that like, okay, at some point like listen, let people
Understand.
speak. I know
Yeah.
you too have a better story. Just like chill, let them finish, and you will see by the end of their story, is there a need for you to chime in or not? Most of the time you'll realize that 80% of the time you won't need to chime in
Mm,
because the topic would have changed or the point would have moved to something else,
yes.
and not everyone needs to know your story. So yeah, that's something that I'm trying
Interesting.
to fix.
But you have
Yeah.
to be humble to listen to that, I must say.
Yeah.
It's not an easy
Yeah.
one feedback to receive.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
working on it then.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question applies to others.
Mm-hmm.
What is the trait you must deplore in others?
In others, um not having a drive. So here I'm going to talk a bit about like where I come from, my
Yeah.
hometown, right? So I grew up in during my studying years and my working years, mostly in KL.
Mhm.
So before I jumped into the entrepreneurship sea, I was an engineer with Petronas.
Okay.
So I went through the whole engineering route and all of that, mainly because I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was younger. And
Oh,
yeah.
that's it. Yeah, because I remember I'm not preparing much about my guest because
Mm-hmm.
I want this conversation to be authentic on both sides. But I remember your bio presents you as an entrepreneur rapper.
Yeah, entrepreneur
And
rapper,
yeah,
yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But I remember rapper, and
Mm-hmm.
then I saw your LinkedIn, and somehow you're associated to a lot of creative
Yes.
organizations.
Yeah.
So you have somehow a roots, a background like this,
Yeah,
or is
so
more
so so my doctorate is in creative economy actually. How I
ah
got into the tech line, like I was talking about my social enterprise before this. So I was actually running like a creative hub, like how you see Zongshan
yeah
and Rexcale over
yeah
here. So I used to run one in Kuching called House Kuching. Yeah, so that's where I
okay
started my full-on
right
entrepreneurship
yes
journey.
understand
After my Petronas days, okay, what happened was like I wanted to go to film school. Mom didn't allow it because Asian parents.
yeah
It was a Delta 5,
yeah
doctor, engineer, lawyer, teacher, accountant.
I
So
never
it's only
heard
this
about
five.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
but that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
it's the Delta 5,
Okay, yeah.
right? And like my siblings are all doctors and I
Okay.
just chose engineering because that's just the next best thing to do. I mean engineering school was all right, but like my work life that I went through in the oil and gas sector really helped me to focus my thoughts and understand process flow diagrams and process flow thinking. So I start thinking in like problem solving
Uh-huh.
methods. You kind of think in certain ways that like when you see a big problem, you break it into
Yeah.
smaller parts and see how you can solve it. And in the process of solving it, I realized that hey, this is a good problem statement. We can provide a good solution to it. But being a wage earner, you are very limited, and then you have problem of bosses and all. And I'm like, I can't take instructions anymore.
I
I want to be the
understand.
one giving the
Yeah.
instructions, right? And that's how I found out that okay, maybe I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. So I just decided to jump into that and went into the
Mm.
entrepreneurship line. So when I first went into business and started to um, run, like my creative agency and stuff like that. Why I put myself as an entrepreneur rapper is because I've also released a few rap albums before. This is during the pandemic
Oh,
because I didn't have much going
you
on.
need to share about
Yeah.
that.
So that's why I used to have like my Rasta hairdo and all of that
Right.
because I used to
Okay.
record my albums and
I
stuff like
understand.
that. But at the same time, like I had a very huge knack towards like wanting to build businesses and scale businesses and grow
Yeah.
businesses. Like not a lot. Like I'm a serial entrepreneur as well. So a lot of my companies, it's not that I fell in love with the product. It's not like I fell in love with the solution. I just fell in love with the scalability of it.
Understand.
So like
The
when there's
process
the
of
process
growing from
behind it.
zero to something.
Correct, zero to something, and once it's reached some point, and I'm no longer interested, I'll sell off my shares and I'll move to the next thing.
Okay.
That's kind of how I'm thinking.
Interesting.
So while working in KL and moving back to Kuching to start all of this, it was really, 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 really difficult because I am what people would call a Kuching person with KL energy.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
pushy. I mean, I'm actually very chill. I'm
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very calm and very relaxed for a KL person. But for a Kuching person, I'm very
It's too much.
intense.
Yeah,
It's a bit too much.
yeah.
Like they don't like the push, they don't like the drive.
I
So
understand.
my big issue and big pet peeve that I have with people is their lack of drive, their lack of ambition. And sometimes when they just say that, like when they just give me excuses.
Mm.
Because Sarawak at this stage, at this point of time, has so many opportunities.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I've kind of tapped out all the grants and all the governmental support I
Mm.
can get to the
I
extent that
saw
I can
your
get.
list pretty
Yeah. So
long.
like when you have all of this helped me build my visibility on the federal side,
Yes,
and the
yes,
visibility built on the federal side helped me to actually build it in a worldwide stage as well.
yes.
So much so that like my company now has traction across 5 different countries. We've got
Mm.
offices in all of these places as well. And I no longer feel shy to say that like, hey, we're a small Sarawakian company, but we've got worldwide presence.
Yes.
We've got worldwide impact and stuff like that. And they're just like, oh, yeah, you got supported from grants, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you can too.
Mm.
It's a lot easier than
And
you
it's
think.
what you are making out of it.
Correct,
Like
correct.
the
Yeah.
grant is just the first step.
Correct. Yeah. And another thing that like if people are depending on too much grants, they become grantpreneurs
True,
and then they don't scale.
true.
They're just waiting for the next grant to keep the next runway to
Yeah.
run. And what I believed when we started EB Tech was interesting story is that we started the company with a paying client already.
Mm.
So it was not one of those companies where we are going to burn through some money to
Yeah.
develop our product
Yeah.
and then to find the client and customer, do the MVP thing. We had an MVP and we had like a product market fit almost
Yeah.
immediately. Only upon then I said like, hey, let's set up the company. So whatever the client is paying us will help pay for a lot of the salaries and like our office and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So scaling was not a problem for us. Profitability was not a problem for
Mm.
us. And raising our next round of funding also was not really a problem for us as well.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I steered
No, no, no.
quite
It's
far away
so that
from
explains
the
a lot
yeah.
actually for the lack of drive here that you don't
Mm-hmm.
like in others. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I understand. Now, which living person do you most admire? Could be someone famous or could be someone from your private circle.
I would say two-person, two people. Sorry, one will be Mark Cuban.
Okay.
I'm very 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 fascinated, and he's kind of like my idol in terms of like bad boy businessman kind of thing. I like how he
Yeah.
goes about things. He has made like watching Shark Tank, like he has made some questionable decisions. He has been known to be kind of emotional and kind of like rash in some of the things he does. That just makes me feel like he's human,
Yeah.
which makes me like him even
I
more,
understand. Yeah.
because it's not all perfect and all fake and stuff
Yes.
like that. Another person is my dad, actually, because when my dad actually moved to Sarawak, he is actually West Malaysian. He was from the army. After working in the army, he worked in the plantation as a plantation manager, and he
Mm.
too had that day where he is like, you know what, I can't take instructions from people anymore. I want to choose my own path. I want
Right.
to lead my own thing, right? So my siblings and my mom kind of like by the book, wage earning and all of that. My mom left a wage earning job to support my dad, and supported him all the way as well. But for him to have that courage, that drive, and that need to take that leap of faith, I don't think I've taken the kind of risks that they have taken. Although,
Mm.
my parents would say otherwise. I'm scaling a bit differently from them because
Yeah.
they started in their 40s. I
Yeah.
started in my early 20s, right? But I still feel that like I have a lot to learn from them. Initially, when I was running some businesses with them, we used to fight all the time. So I'm in the midst of writing a book about the generational
Mm-hmm.
differences between father and son, or like daughter and mother
Yeah.
businesses,
Yeah.
because this is very common in
Yeah. Yeah.
Sarawak.
Yeah.
All the big conglomerates or like the big MNCs are looking to like give their business to the kids,
Yeah.
but either the kids is not ready, or the kids is very ready, but the parents are like not
True.
ready to accept
True.
because of like the mindset different and stuff like that, right? So one thing that I allowed and was very okay with, like how my relationship with my dad became better over the years. So instead of like him saying, hey, you're going to inherit this company when I die, it's more of along the lines of like, hey dad, I'm going to buy shares in this company, but when we talk about company matters, I'm not your son, I'm your business
Mm.
partner.
I understand.
So you
You
need
put
to
the
give me that kind
distance.
of
Yes.
respect, and I don't stay in the same house as you, and you don't call me boy and all of this,
Yeah.
whatever, but like you respect me equally and I respect you equally as well. So over the years that has happened,
Okay.
and I'm very proud of that,
Very
and that's why I
nice.
very much look up to him as well.
Okay. Oh, that's a
Mhm,
nice story. Interesting.
mhm.
All right. Your next question is, what is your greatest extravagance?
Would it be something that like I spend a lot on?
Could
Oh,
be,
okay.
or something that you're doing that is not out of character, but people would not expect, maybe, or that you are
Okay.
indulging into.
Okay, so maybe two things. One is like my interest in music. So I've moved from from creating music to producing music,
Okay.
and now to music distribution as well. So this
Okay.
is something I do on the side to like support like the creative ventures,
Okay.
especially in Sarawak. So I run like a digital distribution arm called Lion Records, basically to help support like local music, local hip hop music, local singer-songwriter kind of vibes,
Right.
ballads and stuff like that. Another thing that like I would say that I would without a doubt spend extravagantly is for good sleep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would pay big bucks for good sleep, you know? So if there are hours in the airport where I'll have to like figure out I'm transiting or flights cancel or stuck, I would pay big bucks for a good bed to
Yeah.
sleep at night.
Yeah.
That's
I
something like
understand.
it's kind of non-negotiable for me. Not to sound like a rich person or to sound like I'm pompous or anything. It's more of like um I've come to understand over the years because you read your body all the time. You understand how your body
Yeah.
works. You understand how your body functions. With lack of good sleep, it's almost like 20% efficiency only.
That is true.
And then it's just not worth it because the next day when you actually get good sleep, you think back about the past and go like, damn, I could have done this, I
True.
could have done that,
True.
And also, these are the two things that like I would probably
Okay.
be a bit more extravagant
Interesting.
about. Yeah.
All right. Now, what is your current state of mind in this period of the year?
Um, Okay, from a business perspective, I think I am a little bit on edge and slightly anxious because
Okay.
a lot of like our supposed closing rounds of funding is taking a little bit longer than expected. I mean, to be fair, also like every fundraising journey involves you and meeting the investor. There's a lot of courting, there's a lot of dating, there's a lot of
Yes.
push and pull,
Yeah.
there's a lot of wine and dine and stuff like that. I'm just at the stage of like a lot of investors have said yes, and then there's still a lot of whining and dining that needs to happen still, which is not a bad thing because I think it's all character building, it's adding to
Yeah.
my experience and whatnot. It just kind of puts me on a little bit of an edge because the pressure of the CFO
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
to make sure that like it's not just about runway, it's also about scaling because we have reached the point in some of our impact projects that we want to invest as well.
Mm.
And with that money that's coming in, we could actually invest in a lot of these impact projects that brings a very huge return, not just financially, but
Yeah.
also socioeconomic development and stuff like that, which is what we truly believe in as well. So like I'm just hoping that like this whole investment winter or this investment slowdown ends
Yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
So like they say in Game of Thrones, like winter's here, let's hope the winter ends.
I understand. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And you
yeah.
can focus now on the operations, and
Correct,
yeah,
correct.
I
Yeah.
understand. All right. On what occasion do you lie, as in cheat, LIE?
Oh, and what occasions do I lie? Huh. Mm, at one point, I used to lie a lot about my mental health.
Okay.
I think um, recently I've been going through some really tough times in my life, and I've started to take up therapy to understand that like I'm kind of blessed in the sense that I'm able to enunciate a lot of like my feelings and my thoughts, but I'm just not doing it. I'm not using it properly. And when I don't do that properly, when I don't say it out, I tend to like overthink it internally, and you tend to be a bit harsh to yourself in the
Yeah.
process as well. So I felt that like I was lying to myself a lot,
Mm.
saying that
Okay.
I'm okay, saying that
Okay.
I'm fine, when I'm
It
actually
was for
not.
you. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah,
understand.
it's because like we always feel, as not to say as men lah, but as like leaders of the company, right?
Yes. Yes.
We want to keep like a good persona. We don't need people seeing us weak or
Mm-hmm.
down and stuff like that. But being true to yourself doesn't mean you got to be truthful to everyone. You don't
Yeah.
have to go out and
Yeah.
say like, hey, I'm mentally unsound. I'm probably on the spectrum or whatever. But when you do talk about it to some people who can sort of relate, and then you realize that. You know, being on the spectrum isn't exactly a bad
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's just now that you know it, at least you can learn how to be socially acceptable about it, or make yourself socially acceptable, and also make yourself not be too harsh on yourself as well. Don't
Yeah.
don't don't beat yourself up too
Yeah.
much. So that's one thing that I think I've been lying to myself a bit, and I'm hoping to like not do that anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you are bringing that up because, as you know, I'm one of the board presidents, which means facilitator of Nexia Entrepreneur Program Group,
Mm-hmm.
and pay a lot of attention to health.
Mm.
I call the entrepreneurs the business athletes,
Mm.
but you don't have the teams around you,
Mm-hmm.
unlike the really
Like
high
the real
level
athletes, right?
athletes, right?
Yeah.
And that's a shame because, indeed, especially in Asia, this is something I've seen cultural difference.
Mm.
You are not really allowed to talk about being down. And so somehow you're blinding yourself as well because it's just the way you were raised.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, if you don't go okay, then the business has no chance to go okay.
Exactly.
So you're
Exactly.
letting down a lot of people, actually.
In the process.
Exactly.
That's so interesting you mentioned that.
Exactly.
Um, once upon a time when I used to tell my parents that like I'm pretty stressed out, I might be going through some mild depression, and my mom was like, "Are you sure you're not dehydrated? Maybe drink some water. You'll feel a little better." It's
Right.
different era, you know.
Yes, of
So they
course.
fought for survival and stuff like that. I'm fighting for like a better quality in life.
Yes.
So when some things don't exactly go my way, or I'm under a lot of stress or under a lot of pressure, um, we don't have a lot of outlets that we know
Yeah.
about. And going for therapy sounds very daunting. Talking to people about it
Mm.
and like paying money for someone to just listen when you can just go out with friends and
Yeah.
drink it off. Not the same, by the way. It's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah. Yeah.
same,
Of
guys.
course.
Therapy is totally different. But like, I would encourage for people to, if not at least go to get professional help. You can also kind of like just take some time to introspectively look into yourself
Yeah.
and see where am I at right now,
Yeah.
do some temperature check, do some health checks to like where are you at in terms of your happiness index?
Yeah.
Because why else are we doing this if we're not trying to be happy? If we're
True.
doing it to be miserable, then that's kind of the wrong way to go
It's already
about
a
it.
big sacrifice.
Yeah,
So you have to be, the ups have to be more than the downs.
correct, correct.
Otherwise, it's not worth it, in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So,
that's true.
yep. I'm glad that you're bringing that up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What you most dislike about your appearance, if there is anything, and you might be super happy about yourself, which is in a good place.
My appearance. I mean, I I could lose some weight, I guess. It's just that recently, I've kind of gone back to binge eating, because of the stress. Not great, but like, my teammates and all, we have this whole weight loss challenge thing, so that
Okay,
keeps us
that
like
is good.
going. But other than that, I feel that like, I'll be very honest. I think at one point, like it's my hairstyle and my hair do kind of stands out and sticks out.
Yeah.
But when I started, okay, and this goes back to again like trying to make other people happy. It's not really about making other people happy. I just felt that like when I'm dealing, a lot of our business is going to like B2G, business to government,
Yes,
and I would need to start looking a little bit more formal.
I
I'll need
understand.
to look a little bit more approachable.
Yeah.
I need to look a little bit more presentable. That's the word.
Mm,
Yeah, more presentable. So having a rasta hairdo and braids, or like a long hair with a ponytail and all of that, probably not the best look. So what I did was one day I just decided to go for a haircut, get my hair dyed, and look a little bit younger. And then when I went back to meet some of these clients, like their faces just sprung up and be like, okay, wow,
we can
it's more
talk now.
excited to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
talk more
Yeah.
now because before this you seemed a little scary. You seemed a little bit like apprehensive, like, oh, it's just a finance guy, but he looks kind of
You're not
rough
going
around the
into the
edges,
labels here. Yeah.
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 So I'm just like,
It's unfortunate, but that's how the brain thinks and
yeah,
how the
yeah,
world is. So
yeah.
it can be hard to accept, but at some point you have to play the game if that is the only way to go. So,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I thought that like changing my hairstyle would mean changing like a part of my personality and
I
whatnot.
appreciate.
But I just realized that like, I mean, I'm Indian, so I grow hair pretty fast anyway. So before I know it, like my hair is going to be back to long again. So I don't need to be like so attached to my look
I
that way.
understand.
And I think the changing in the look kind of creates more of like a conversation
Yeah,
topic.
true. True. That's a icebreaker.
So yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I'm pretty
Okay.
okay with that. Yeah.
Nice. Now, which living person do you most despise? Hold on, it's a 19th century question.
Okay.
We don't despise anymore and we
Okay,
don't say names
fair,
in public,
fair. I
right?
get it. Yeah.
But it's more about which kind of people you don't like to be surrounded? Yeah, surrounded with.
Surrounded by. Okay.
By. Hey, my English here. By.
Yeah. So. Okay. So I'm not particularly opposed to people who are generally religious, but there is a trend that you can see of like people who tend to be a bit more conservative on the religious side of things, to be kind of judgmental, and also to be sort of like coming to conclusions quicker than they should on how some things are in a business.
Yeah.
Because the thing about business is like, yes, there's a right way to do it, there's a wrong way to do it, but there are gray areas to do it
Yeah.
as well. And there are what we call sublegal things, right? Which is legal here, but not exactly legal in other
Yeah.
parts of the world, or like how you would want to reclassify certain things in your accounts and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, just to put it simply,
Yeah.
right? So people who tend to be conservatively religious tend to not take that, okay or openly. Some even may go to the extent of like just, summarizing and saying, simplifying it and saying that like, oh, sometimes doing business means you need to cheat people, you need to lie to people
Mm.
because you're not telling full
Yeah.
truths.
Yeah.
Because if you're telling full truths, you won't make a profit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, I can tell people what my profit is. I can even be transparent about my profit, and there are sometimes that they don't need to know my profit. That's just part of what I put in to get the work done.
Yeah.
You can take it and compare apple to someone else, but we bring different values to the table. If you don't appreciate the value I bring to the table, by all means, you can go to the next person. But that does not mean I'm a liar. That does
Mm.
not mean that I'm being non-truthful. That does not mean that I'm doing something bad. It
Yeah.
may be bad by your books,
Yeah.
but I don't adhere to your book and I don't subscribe to that
Yeah.
syllabus,
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
understand.
so these are the kind of people that like I would try to avoid sometimes. Um, I man, this is going to be pretty funny, but like I sense this when sometimes when this business organizations or business groups have this very cult-ish way of like how they want to start their business.
Yeah.
I do their hands hold their hands together and they start praying and speaking in tongues, or like they have this whole system of like you want to say, yes, I must be successful. Everyone repeat after me, yes, I
Mm.
must be successful.
Yes.
Kind of cultish. So like I tend to want to stay away from things like
Okay.
that because everyone has their own way of
Yeah.
talking about things. I'm the type of person that if I go to like a business setting, I would need maybe a half an hour to 1 hour buffer time before I'm out there and
Yeah.
warmed up. So
Understand.
usually I'll be in the corner. I'll just study everyone's character and see how everyone is. So when I go for some business trainings or some business coaching, not really coaching lah, more like when you join accelerator programs, they do have some of the mentorship or
Yeah.
the coaching, right? And they start by saying things like, put your phones away, put your laptops away. I want you to give 100% attention. You tell me this, you tell me that, just kind of like
Yeah.
prodding and
Yeah.
forcing. I'm kind of opposed to that. I feel
Mm.
that like I'm an entrepreneur. I've got like my confidence. I am very confident and I'm secure about myself, but I don't need to be treated like a child like that. I
Mm.
would I would come out when I'm ready. I just sometimes need a bit of time to like study other people because I wear many hats and I have many personalities in my head. I can't just come out with the wrong personality and give off the wrong first
Yeah.
impression. First
I
impressions are
understand.
so
Yeah.
important. So I tend to learn to take some time to get into that.
Mm.
So people who are a little pushy on that also kind of put me on edge and not
Okay.
really want.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Mm.
All right. Now, what is the quality you must like in a man, as in gender man?
Man, um, I would say uh our tolerance to pain.
Okay.
Yeah, although of course the women goes through way more pain than men,
Yes, I can
obviously.
tell.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about pain here is not physical pain.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like
Resilience is more,
resilience.
yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, resilience is probably the word. Like I was talking earlier about the shame of failure and like taking a decision
Yeah.
and then when you know it's wrong, owning up to it and
Yeah.
actually going ahead with it. Yeah, sometimes for it's not easy for men to do that, but men tend to be
You do
a
it.
bit more
Yeah.
easier to do it.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
hmm
And so the same question goes for women. What is the quality you must like in a woman?
I think for women, the compassionate and the compassion that they have. This is something that I kind of had to learn the hard way as well because my experience in working, even from corporate and then after that working under my dad, who's an ex-army guy, we tend to be very transactional
Mm-hmm.
and very like ones and zeros
Yeah.
with people. And learning that compassion, putting myself in their shoes, and it's not easy because I come from a different generation from the staff that I work with right now. And our privilege levels are different.
Mm.
Our concerns in life are so different. But to understand that, by far, the only people or individuals that have helped me understand the context are mostly women.
Mm.
They're the ones who can sit me down and say, Ash, you have to look at it from this point. Okay, think of it like this. If you were in this situation, what would you do? And I'm like, I'm not. But if you were, how do you go about it?
Understand.
You know? So yeah, I would say the compassion part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, which words or phrases do you most overuse if you're aware of it?
Um, Two phrases. One is I always push to synergize. I mean, that's usually like my topic of like lecture and like
Yeah.
mentoring is I believe very strongly that business partners shouldn't be tolerating each other because tolerating each other is like reserved for relationships. You tolerate your wife or your spouse or whatever. But when it comes to business, these are like your chosen partners.
Mm.
I mean, of course, some basic things you can maybe just tolerate a bit if you have a very overarching character and they
Yeah.
have a very overarching character which doesn't directly affect the business. But if we are spending energy on trying to work around other people's weaknesses and not have like a comparative advantage to grow from it, I feel sometimes it's not worth to do that. So I always push for synergy. So
Okay.
synergy means like both of you have to work together to make one
Yes.
plus one equals to three,
Yes.
not just complement each other
Yeah.
kind of thing. It's more than just complementing each other. And another term that I overuse a lot is also tough times don't last, but tough people do. That's one way I
Mm. Okay.
just keep remembering and reminding myself.
Yeah.
It's not good to be tough on yourself too much, but you do understand that like tough people get through tough times.
I
So when
understand.
times are tough, like you know that if you are getting through it, you are tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what or who is the greatest love of your life?
Mm, My parents,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. I think I got into the whole entrepreneurship game after seeing how they live their life.
Okay.
Their way of financial freedom, their way of like because I both of them were wage earners before they started the business. When they started the business in Sarawak, my siblings basically they were quite busy with school and they left home pretty early as well for their college and university. I kind of spent the most time with my parents growing up in terms of like not just being their kid, but also like helping them take care of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So during my engineering school days, I used to go over to because they run a tour and travel company too that back then. So during Mata Fair in Putra World Trade Center, so I would like take yeah, I used to study in Nottingham, so I would like take a KTM down to KL to Central, and then I'll join them in Mata Fair to help sell
Right.
tickets and all of
Okay.
that. The Sarawak Tourism Board used to disturb me a lot because I used to come with my engineering calculator. Usually, they'll have those big typical normal calculators, but I came with my graphing calculator to count how much is it to go to Sarawak Cultural Village if I was going
Mm-hmm.
to give a 20% discount and
Okay.
stuff like that. And they're like, wow, so advanced and stuff. But like I kind of grew up seeing how they operate, how they did things, and how not to do things as well.
Okay.
And they have been giving me, I mean, naturally as parents, they love me and they care for me. But from a business partner perspective, they've given me so many and so much of invaluable knowledge and experience that like yeah, I don't think I can love anyone like I love them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, when and where were you the happiest?
Hmm. Well, at the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, I felt like that was like my happiest moment because 4 years, 3.5 years before that, I would not have imagined ever thinking of even going anywhere close to Silicon
Mm.
Valley. Like I grew up watching Shark Tank. I even watched the show Silicon
Yeah.
Valley, the
Yeah.
series, and just imagine that like, wow, these are such amazing pipe dreams that I guess Singaporean companies or Hong
Yeah.
Kong companies will someday have the chance and ability to go there and to actually go there and even see Laurie Grenier like in front of me, that was just so amazing. Like I don't think I can ever um relive that level of happiness again. I mean, there are a lot more happy things that make me happier as I go
Sure.
along as well, but like that moment for me was very defining because um we tend to have all of these side quests and these achievements that we are trying to reach, right? And then most of the time when you reach them, you're like, okay, I've done it, so what next?
Yeah.
Like for example, for me, like, oh, I grew up thinking that I want to come up with like a rap album, and then maybe I'll die a happy man. And then I did it, and it's just like, oh, it's just like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
What's next? What's next, right? But when it came to this, I was like, wow, I'm at the epitome of it. The next thing is just for me to be like a unicorn, or for me to run a $1 billion company or create a $1 billion company and stuff like that, which is still going to take some time from
Yeah.
now. But till then, I feel like I've reached kind of like an apex and where I'm
I
at.
understand.
I just hope I didn't peak too soon, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, now which talent would you most like to have?
Mm, I think eloquency that helps a lot. Like being able to articulate my thoughts,
Yeah.
being able to articulate my words, being able to call out things as they are, and still be eloquent enough to be able to read the room and use the right terms for it.
Mm.
You know, I wouldn't say that I'm great at it. I would just say that like I've been actively putting a lot of effort into practicing that
Okay.
so that I can be a bit better at like not just enunciating my thoughts, but also talking about my business, simplifying it so that everyone can kind of understand, and sort of being able to read the room to know that like who is really interested to know about my business or who is just asking for the sake of asking.
Yeah.
So I have like a few answers prepared for them.
Yeah.
If they're asking for the sake of asking, it's going to be very
Yeah.
short and simple. If they show a little bit more interest or they know a little bit more about what I'm talking about, and then I can throw in some
Mm.
jargons, I can throw in some, some terms and stuff like that, which will capture their attention a
Yeah.
little bit
I
more.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I wish I was younger.
Who
That's for
doesn't?
sure. It's just that like I mean, I was the type that never really took a gap year or took a break from like a lot of the things that I wanted to do in life. I guess from young, I started school early and I also skipped a couple of grades because like, I mean, it's kind of a nerd back then. I just had this whole drive of like I want to be like the first kid that gets into Petronas the soonest, you know. I started working when I was 19 and then sorry, 20. I started working when I was 20, graduated by the time I was 19, and then I wanted to start like working in the oil and gas sector and all
Hmm.
of that. And then at some point like I realized that I never really took a break. I had friends who were at least 5 to 10 years older than me. My hair started graying a lot, and that's when I realized that, okay, look, I think I've peaked in terms of like my wage earning capabilities. And I don't plan to become like a professional engineer just so that like my boss can just chuck me into any other department at his whim and whatever. So I wanted to form my own consultancy. That was the first idea that I had
Hmm.
actually. Form my own consultancy so I get to choose my boss,
Yeah.
you know? But by the time I realized and I started that, I was already 25, 24, 25, which to me I felt was like if I had this say when I was like 21, 22, like a lot of people do right now,
Yeah.
I think things would have been quite different and I would have made a lot more bold choices and bold decisions with that young spirit of mine.
Mm.
I would have made a lot of mistakes too,
Sure.
but mistakes always like open up doors for like how you can do better in the future.
Yeah.
Almost all the mistakes that I've made and are making right now always leads to something that I can laugh about a couple of years down the
Mm.
line, at least, at the
Yeah.
very least. Most of the time it gives me a good insight into something different, but like in essence, like yeah, I wish if I was a little bit younger, I'll have a little bit more time to make more mistakes so I can kind of solidify where I'm getting and going towards.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Mm, this is very basic actually because like I don't really feel the whole like making billions or millions in the company in terms of a revenue blah 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 as something of like a great achievement. That's me doing my job
Mm.
as a CFO and as a person who's meant to scale. This is literally what I do to scale.
Okay.
But what actually made me feel very impactful in the stuff that I do, and this is not just with EB Tech, this is with my other companies as well, is when I can actually look at my co-founders and tell them they're like, hey, you guys have loans, you guys have like financial debt. I'm going to work hard enough that the company will cover your financial debt.
Mm.
You'll be able to take bonuses from the company, but I will make sure you're not going to buy anything with that.
Yeah.
I will make sure you take that money and I'll follow you to the bank and pay off all your loans.
Mm.
What is the point for you to become a financially free person by running a business and having a bunch of like loans and debts
Yeah,
around you,
I
because
see. Yeah.
these guys were like wage earners before. Like for my videography company, my partner Sydney, he was a teacher, and he took up loans to buy a laptop which he gave to his girlfriend and never took back, and blah 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 blah,
Mm.
and he's still paying for that loans until a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I told him that, like, okay, we are making good money, we are making good dividends, we're not going to take this and be rich, we're going to take this and make you financially free
Yeah.
so you can have a good sleep.
Yeah.
I talk so much about good sleep, you need to start feeling that as
Mm.
well, because if you stay up at night thinking how I'm going to pay the next bank loan and all of that, yeah, so I did that mainly to make them have a good life, and I could also sleep well knowing that, like, the people that I depended on would not compromise the quality of their work.
Yeah.
And what happened was, like, when I was having some financial difficulties, they, without a hesitation, pulled their money together to come and actually
Mm.
support and help me.
Nice.
And that, to me, I mean, that moved me to tears so much that, like, I just can never, I can never turn my back against them, like, ever again. And it's things that usually friends would do, but bear in mind, my business partners were never my friends before. I met them when I started the
Yeah.
business. These are not like my
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
from before we were in high school together.
Yeah.
I don't have any businesses with friends like that,
I
because
understand.
I've tried it, it failed, and then I closed it down. And then I want to work with people
Yeah.
objectively using synergy and my techniques of how I build the synergy. And through that, I realized that not only if I impacted their lives, it has strongly impacted my life as well. So I feel that's some of my greatest achievements.
Okay. Now, if you were to die and come back as a person or thing, what would it be?
Hmm. Okay. Uh, if I was to die and come back, I would want to be a very strong financial instrument to support startups,
Okay.
whatever that is.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, maybe in the future there could be a way for support systems for startups to basically sort of stress test and make sure that, like, all the issues and problems faced in their OPEX and the basic menial stuff like having corporate governance and stuff like that can basically be sorted by this kind of
Yeah.
mechanism, because um, startups may feel that they don't need this when they're bootstrapping and all of that, but trust me, when you reach the point of, like, getting, like, investment from, like, say, government agencies and stuff like that, a lot of stumbling blocks comes from the fact that, like, when you started, you didn't have, like, a corporate goal or a corporate mindset towards where you're getting
Hmm.
towards. To some people, that may sound like, oh, it's very capitalistic, like, oh, thinking you should just focus on impact. We should just focus on, like, what we're doing. But, like, as from someone who's, like, handling finances and handling the CFO roles, and also being, like, the front face of, like, dealing with corporate clients and stuff like that, these things are needed, but it's almost impossible to have
Yeah.
in the startup
Yeah.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
So if I could come back as, like, a financial instrument to support and help this, that's what I would do.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
CFO driven here.
Yeah. That's literally my job, right? Yeah.
Now, where would you most like to live? Could be a specific place or could be a type of environment.
Mm, I mean, my dream, obviously, is to be able to just travel the world
Uh-huh.
while all my businesses and all my endeavors and all my impact that I'm giving and doing uh, is either what do you call that, manageable from a distance or manageable remotely, or if I need to go down and see how my impact is doing, I'm able to just travel there at, like, a moment's
Okay.
notice.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining, like, probably on a cruise, like One Piece, just, like, traveling around the world.
Okay.
When there's a need for it, like, or maybe a helicopter, I'll just hop
Yeah.
on the heli and
Yeah.
just fly there. And then when I'm done, I'll just figure out where my ship is at the moment and just head back
Nice.
there and stuff. Yeah, because, like, after traveling a lot, I don't see myself being in one place at one
Mm,
time for a very
I
long time.
understand.
Because, like, it's either I get bored, it's either I immediately think of ways on how I can globalize whatever operations I'm doing over there, or I just want to travel every part of the world. Yeah, it's just one of those three things
Understand.
that makes me want to be on the move all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is your most treasured possession? Can be tangible or intangible.
Mm, I think my most treasured possession right now, um, the connection and the relationships that I have with my co-founders. I've had pretty bad breakups with some of my company's co-founders recently as well, which made me actually realize that I used to be very proud to say that I'm running 12 companies. I mean, I still am, but like some of it I've just relinquished some of like my co-founding or like my shareholding or like my directorship and stuff like that. But the few that I hold close to me and work with, they are my very shared possessions as well.
Mm,
Like I defend them violently, you know, sometimes even against their own paramours, against their own life partners.
understand.
If they have something to say against them, I get very, very defensive
Mm,
about it.
I
You know,
see.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was kind of unhealthy at some point, but I just felt that like I'm partially responsible for these people's life as well. They are very important to me,
Understand.
and I would give my life for them. So they are like
Okay.
my prized possessions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
Mm, I feel I mean, I'm just gonna share openly. I just recently went through a divorce as well, and like the depth of misery didn't exactly come from the end of the relationship.
Okay.
I think a very big part of like what didn't make it work between us was the lack of respect that like your partner would have towards the work that you do,
Okay.
and also it's not about asking for acknowledgement. It's more about understanding the situation that we're in.
You know,
Okay.
it's a topic actually that recently I discussed with my group of entrepreneurs
Mm,
over lunch because I think I'm the oldest in the group somehow. And I'm their facilitator. So they were asking, oh, how long have you been with your husband? Blah, blah, blah. And they were talking about girlfriends, you know, so that starts here.
mm,
And we were sharing experiences here. And what I told them is, as an entrepreneur, if you don't have the backbone
mm,
of your partner,
mm,
girlfriend, spouse,
mm,
understanding you,
mm.
and therefore the constraint of your job, then it will fail at some point or
Yep.
another. My
Yep.
husband is a big four company forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much like entrepreneurship.
Mm.
It can be night
It's
and days.
intrapreneurship basically.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm,
it's night and days, and there's no time where it's downtime. Where
mm.
you go on holidays, there can be meetings.
It's
You
not
can
a 9 to 5 kind of thing at
Right.
all,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
since we were 20 out of business school
Mm,
until now, where we're 47,
mm,
and he's at the highest, let's say, level
mm,
now.
mm, mm,
But if I think I played my part pretty well, because if I couldn't support that in the way that he needed,
mm,
I don't think that he could have the career he had,
mm.
or we would have not lasted 27 years together.
Right.
Either way.
Right.
And I was saying to them, if the girlfriend starts now to question why you can't take her to lunch, or why is
Problem.
I would question the
Mm-hmm.
relationship
Mm-hmm.
because the foundations don't seem to be so properly installed here for
Yep.
you to succeed. It's already a hard path.
Yep.
Your
Yep.
family doesn't quite understand you, why you sacrifice the super nice engineering job at Petronas, for
Yep.
instance.
Yep.
So if your
Yep.
spouse that you are choosing, or
Mm-hmm.
your future spouse, is another hurdle on the way, are you
That,
really
that's
alone here?
basically like
You
like like I
can't.
said, I was under the impression also that synergy is something that you say for your business partners and
Yes.
tolerating you
Yes,
say for like
synergies,
your
exactly.
relationships, right? For me in my case was that like we started dating when I was in Petronas.
Mm.
So she was used to me being a wage
A
earner.
corp.
She was
Yeah.
used to me being a corporate
Yeah.
person. Money and time is no problem.
Yeah.
So when I started to start my own business and really starting from scratch, like getting nitty gritty at like to the extent that I can't attend her family Christmas functions because I'm still setting up my building. The electricity is not up yet.
Yeah.
We have a New Year's party and nobody's going to do it unless I go down and I
Yeah.
do it, and stuff like that. Over the years, we were together for about 12 years. So over the years, she also works in like an intrapreneur kind of setting. We used to be quite okay with how things were, but I think at some point when my success was kind of taking up a lot more time from me wanting to spend time with her,
Yeah.
instead of like giving me the space to like grow, I think she realized that that's probably not what she wanted in her life.
Sure.
And then we decided that okay, before things get worse, we would just move away from it,
Yeah.
amicably. And in essence, what happened also was that like I mean, there is a line between being a workaholic and actually enjoying the work that you do,
Yeah.
because workaholism comes from the fact that like you kind of make it your whole personality and your whole your sense of worth, your sense of living comes only from your work,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think at some point I was there as well.
I
That
understand.
also led to like
Sure.
our decline in our relationship and all of that. So I would say the very down point of my life was not the fact that like I had to deal with the, with the breakdown of the
Yeah.
relationship and all of that, but I think it comes from the fact that like I allowed myself to become kind of like a workaholic where
Mm.
it was just my escape. I
Yeah.
wasn't doing it for impact anymore. I wasn't
Understand.
doing it to grow the company. I was just doing it to escape a problem I didn't want to face. And then after that, like the shame of needing to then own up to the mistake that you have done, because being a man
Yeah.
and being like strong and having a strong exterior and all of that means that like you have no chance of showing any vulnerability or weakness. And if you do, you end up hating yourself even
True.
more for it.
True.
You won't even like look yourself in the mirror
True.
straight if you just had like a whole crying session, right? So worry not, this happens, and it's not impossible to get out of. It
Sure.
is not like a hurdle that just makes you feel that life is not worth living anymore. There's a lot of help, there's a lot of therapy, but also I feel that like you just need to talk to another entrepreneur.
Mm.
You'll be surprised
That
at the
is
number
true.
of people that like when you talk about the business and you talk about like your work, everybody's like, yeah, yeah, sure, I do this, you do that. This is my product, you are in that industry. Maybe we're not in the same industry. But when you talk about problems, when you talk about like partner problems, when you talk about like life problems, suddenly like the most random other entrepreneur can be like, you know what, I went through the exact same
Sure.
thing, like dot by dot,
And
word by
they
word.
are the only ones to get it.
Yes, correct.
Because even the partners, I mean, they're
Yeah,
not
your direct business
living.
partners won't get
Yeah,
it. They
exactly.
wouldn't understand. They come from
Exactly.
different walks of life.
Exactly.
They can empathize. They can be very kind. They can listen to you,
Yeah,
but it's not the same,
exactly.
until you find someone that went through something exactly the same like what you
Yeah,
went through and go like, damn, I didn't know
that
that,
is true.
then I'm not alone in this world anymore. And if I'm not alone in this world anymore, I guess I'm doing something right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
hmm
very true here. Now, what is your favorite occupation?
So growing up, I wanted to become a forensic scientist because like I loved watching a lot of CSI. And then I realized I liked watching a lot of CSI because of its cinematography.
Okay, okay, very different.
Yeah. So then I realized that like my real dream, like dream, um is to become a filmmaker. So
Okay,
like I
so
do
that's
I do
still on.
yeah, they're still on.
Okay,
Like I'm running my film company, and I have produced some films, some local films, some documentaries and stuff like that as well. Um but ideally, I would love to basically produce films related to like rise in
okay.
entrepreneurship
Yep.
problems and stuff like that, because
Looping back to who you are.
exactly. Like I would just want to marry the things that
Yep.
like I love together.
Yep.
And I think storytelling techniques, documentation techniques, documentary techniques and all of that. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to things
Mm,
like that. So I think that once I do have enough money, or once I have like a very nice sweet exit, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go shoot a film.
okay, nice.
I've got
Okay.
like a whole list of like scripts to shoot whenever I can on my
You'll
own
tell us
money.
on when you
Yeah.
do that.
Sure.
All right. What is your most marked characteristic?
Marked as in?
If someone had to describe you, they would say, "Oh, Ashy is like this or like that." The one thing they would say.
Okay. I mean, once upon a time, it used to be like, yeah, Ash and his hairstyle. Every time I see him, he's always got a
So
different
more
hairstyle.
the temper, the personality here,
Personality,
yeah,
yeah,
which can
because
express by your hairdo, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, because like even even Ben and Ellen, every time they see me, they're like, "Oh my God, Ash, it's so hard to like recognize you. You're always with a different hairdo. Every time I see you, it's either a ponytail or sometimes at the early stages, like I used to be completely bald.
Okay,
Yeah, and then
okay,
one
very
time I had a
different
purple
indeed.
hairdo as
An
well.
evolution here,
Yeah.
fun.
So yeah, I think that I guess just like my outlook and personality, because I think a lot of like my personality has kind of evolved over the years. One of the reasons we chose the name of the company to be Evolving Brilliance is so that whenever we need to pivot, we won't say we pivot, we say we evolved in that
Ah,
direction.
okay, with a lot of flair, obviously.
Yes, exactly. Because
Okay,
that pivoting sounds
interesting.
a bit like, oh, we have to stop this and go there. But
Yeah,
this
yeah,
was like, no, we didn't exactly stop. It's just like slowly growing, a bit slower than the next thing that we're
yeah,
growing up, that we're
yeah.
evolving into.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I was wondering.
hmm
Now, what do you most value in your friends?
What I most value in my friends is, of course, trust and respect. These are the only two things I value in them.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean they don't have to be polite. We can be very rude or very crude or whatever to one another, but respect always comes from the fact that like you care for the person enough, or you respect the person enough to not just respect boundaries, but also respect that like you are the person to keep some things in check for me as well. In the sense that like if they respect me enough, they know that like if I was giving off like sort of a wrong vibe in public, unknowingly, right? They would respect me enough to come and tell me that like, hey, you want to be respected, right? Respectfully speaking, you need to do this,
Yeah.
you know? And then I realized that, oh no, that was not what I was trying to do. I think I got excited when I did it. Then they say like, oh, but it comes off as this. So you need to do something to like kind of fix it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, and that comes with also a very strong level of trust as well.
Okay.
So so that I can trust them and they can trust me. Yeah.
Understand. All right. Now, who is your favorite writer, if you have any?
I mean, I grew up reading a lot of John Grisham, and then after that, of course, I went into a lot of fiction, so like George R. R. Martin and all of that stuff. But like in terms of like self-help, I think I always fall back to like the old school ones like Stephen Covey's Seven Habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I like his style of writing. Also
Okay.
like Tony Buzan's mind mapping. These are kind of very old school methods to sort of like make you highly productive. But it works for me
Yep.
because like mind mapping and drawing the brain map
Yep.
and all of that, I still do that till today. You know, I remember my dad bought me my first Tony Buzan book when I was like 14,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I was so intrigued because it was like this big little drawing book, and then it came with marker pens and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. So I could like, younger days I used to draw comics or whatever inside. But as I grew older, like, you can just use the eraser and erase all of it and just like redraw brain
Yep.
maps, So like whenever I'm having like a mind map idea or like I'm trying to brainstorm and stuff like that, there were a lot of techniques that I could use to better understand how I want to go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the few authors that like I
Okay.
grew up reading. Yeah.
All right. Who is your hero of fiction?
Fictional hero. Um, let's see. I watch a lot of DC and Marvel. But I like Batman a lot. Yeah, I've been a huge fan of like Batman,
Okay.
mainly because like he he doesn't come with any superpowers. Yes, he's rich, but like okay, this is gonna get into like kind of nerdy region a little bit, right? So there are newer iterations of Batman recently. So there is one called Absolute Batman,
Okay.
where they kind of retold the whole story of like Bruce Wayne, where he didn't actually grow up with rich parents. He actually went to jail,
Wow.
and
Kind of a dystopian
yes, correct. So
Batman.
like a dystopian kind of like
Interesting.
new take to it. So that just made me love the character like that much more because
Okay.
you always have to be 5 steps ahead when you're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
strategizing some things. So where they take a lot of these ideas is like when you're playing chess.
Yeah.
For famous and pro chess players, like sometimes on the spot you think like 2 or 3 steps ahead just to quickly work around like
Yeah.
your squares and all of that. But in a lot of cases, like you kind of have to think a little bit further so that you kind of have like your full checkmate plan in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
So if one thing goes a little bit different, you fall
Yeah.
next to the next plans, right? So yeah, I would say Batman, my
Okay. Plus, he
superhero.
used tech.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
all right. Now, which historical figure do you get most inspired by?
Historical figure. I would say, I mean, the philosophers basically, because like a lot of like my life principles, like Plato, like Kant, like
Kant.
yeah,
Bad memories for me.
yeah.
School, bad
So
memories.
yeah, okay, okay. For that reason, okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
because Kant
But
is like this.
yeah, it's very
And
thick.
I
Yeah.
think he's with Milo, is it Milo Kundera? I think Milo is the first. Milan
Milan
Kundera, sorry.
Kundera. Yeah.
I have kids who love Milo. So Milan,
Mm, mm,
Milan Kundera, they write sentences like one page sentence.
mm, mm,
So when
mm.
you're 16 or something, it's like
Yeah.
hard, hard. So
I
Kant,
yeah, so
okay.
I read up on most of these philosophies very much later in my life when I'm
Okay.
like trying to figure out like my faith, I'm kind of like I'm pretty agnostic actually right now. I mean, I would say atheist, but like I kind of believe in like manifesting in the
Mhm.
universe. So a lot of my partners are telling me that like, oh no, I don't think that's pure atheism. I just like, nah, whatever, because I always understood atheism is like, I don't believe in God and I don't believe in religion. I do believe in like when you manifest hard enough and you
Yep.
think about it hard enough, your body and your nature just automatically
Yep.
moves in that
Yep.
direction.
I relate totally.
It's nothing spiritual. It's maybe got to do with energy and vibration. And also the concept of luck is basically when opportunity meets preparation.
Yep. Yep.
There's no luck that you are completely unprepared and you just did it and it works.
Mm.
You know, if it did, it's a statistical anomaly. I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
reasoning for like most
Yeah,
of
no,
it,
that's
right?
true. That's true.
So like during that time, for me to reach this hypothesis, to reach this kind of reasoning and all of that, I used to fall back to a lot of like scholars
Yep.
and a lot of like philosophers
Yep.
to
Makes
understand
sense.
this is how I want to go about my thought process.
Yep.
It makes me a little bit easier to like accept how I want to accept things in the world. But I can tell you for a fact that like, you know, being an atheist can be pretty depressing as well because, you
Mm.
know, a lot of people are just like, I think you just need to go pray. If you have a God, you won't be so depressed, you know? And I was like,
Yeah.
ah,
Somehow I
you know,
understand why. It gives
yeah.
them hope to some people, some
Yeah,
believers.
I mean it
So,
helps for some people.
yep.
Doesn't really help for me, but like I prefer leaving it to logic, science, and philosophy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Interesting. Now, completely out of the blue, this question: what
Hmm.
are your favorite names? Or,
Names.
yeah, like first name. What is your
First
favorite
names.
first name?
Okay. I mean, I was thinking of a lot of first names that if I have kids, right?
Yeah.
I think I want my kid to go through a pretty tough life being called the first in everything.
Okay.
So if I was going to call him Aaron, it'll be Aaron with three A's.
Okay, sure. You're a bit
Aaron.
like an Elon Musk here, Ade,
Yeah, yeah.
huh?
So then the kid's
Okay.
gonna really
It's not enough
struggle.
to have two, you want three.
Three,
Okay,
yeah, because two
Aaron.
is like, oh, it's so common. Everyone's gonna, you
Yes,
know,
get
then that's
it.
just the next surname that would determine.
Get
Here
it.
it's like you just get it number one straight away. Um, it's quite interesting. Like, what are the names? Let's see. Um, Once upon a time, I used to give myself a lot of pseudonyms. So at one point, I was calling, I don't know, I was very, every time I drive by Filio Damansara, I was very intrigued by the word filio.
Okay.
And then I wanted to find something that actually rhymes with filio. So I call it Eduardo, so Filio Eduardo.
Ah, okay.
So I probably would, you know, be okay with that name as well.
Okay.
And then other than that, um, once upon a time when I used to write short stories, I used to have a pen name as well. So that pen name used because it's Ash, right? ASH, but I wanted it to be like A.S.Harvey.
Okay.
So that like, you know, it kind of sounds like yeah, it kind of sounds like Ashwin, but
Yep.
like it's like A.S. Harvey kind of
Okay.
thing. So yeah, there's a few names that like I like.
Okay. So
Yeah.
very much Ellen here.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what is it that you most dislike in general in life?
In life, what I dislike. Um I dislike having like no general direction
Okay.
in anything.
Yep.
Like if we are driving somewhere and we don't have a sort of like a purpose in
Mm-hmm.
where we're driving to,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have a problem with that.
Okay.
It's very uncomfortable for me to sit in such a situation.
Understand.
Funnily enough, so recently I went for therapy, right? And the first thing that happened after my first session of the whole therapy was, you know, the therapist was telling me that, like, okay, you know, I think our time is up. And I said, no, 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 wait, wait, wait. So this is the first time I'm going for therapy, right? And I've not had a lot of experience in this being Asian and all of that. So what am I to expect from the end of this
Mm.
therapy, right? What are the goals I'm trying to reach? What's the
Matrix, please.
objective? Yeah, exactly. So, so the therapist was like, okay, so you know that's not exactly how
Yeah.
healing works,
Yeah.
you know, and stuff like that. Then I'm like, no, but then I came here, I gave you my resource, I gave you my time, I gave you my energy, I gave you my emotions. Like
KPIs.
what do I get back in return? You know, because if that's the case, I don't think this is a good transaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I was saying that, I was like, am I even hearing myself right now? What am I saying? You know, and all of that. So among some of my friends, they were saying that like, okay, it's telling tale sign that like you, that's not how you should approach therapy. You know, healing's a bit different and all of that. But at the same time, if really I'm not seeing what is the purpose and the real thing that I can get out of the therapy, I don't think it's very good
Yeah.
therapy as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because if I want to just have someone listen to me talk about my feelings and problems, I just go out drinking with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Ultra GPT works
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah. ChatGPT will work as
For
well.
free.
Yeah. So, what she did give some redeeming answers lah
Sure.
by saying that like, okay, uh, we just have to work on the language. Like, it is goal orientated,
Mm,
but when you put goals to it, it adds a certain kind of pressure.
sure.
And you understand, in business, you have a good control on a lot of like your factors, your external factors, and the pressure. With emotions and with feelings, because we are unraveling a lot of things that Asians have been dealing with for like the longest time. And we are only now coming to the age and time that we can say it out and deal with it and do it in a safe space, kind of thing. So these are kind of uncharted
Yeah.
waters.
Yeah.
So setting goals to uncharted things may lead to a lot of
Yeah.
disappointment.
Yeah.
That's what we are trying to avoid at
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
stage, because it's going to be very detrimental towards your towards your recovery. All right. So how about we start with some self-regulation exercises? And when you do feel something, maybe you can start journaling them. So the next time you see me, we can talk about it and
Mm,
stuff like that. So that kind of gave me like, okay lah, there's some goal lah to it,
mm,
there's some way to go
yeah.
about it. It's not completely
Yeah.
directionless.
It's
And
not random.
and don't just let me go at the end of the session and not have like a concluding
Yeah.
statement,
Yeah. Yeah.
because then I don't know what was the point of the session
I
today. You
understand.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, what is your greatest regret, if you have any?
Um, my greatest regret was that I didn't take up more entrepreneurship skills during my schooling days. I think like I was very driven in the science stream to just get like the best job, and like to be the best wage earner, that I can come back home and just like live a very happy 9 to 5 life. But for some reason, I'm very rich, and stuff like that. It's quite weird because like growing up with parents who are entrepreneurs, they still pushed us to become doctor, engineer,
Yeah.
lawyer, teacher,
Yeah.
accountant. It's just one of these five, right? And for some reason also, I felt that like if they did not really push it in that direction, I don't think I would have been the best businessman that I am today, or the best entrepreneur that I am today. Like, for example, if I did decide to go to film school, I don't think I'll be running a filming company which is, pretty successful like it is today.
Mm,
I'll be very uptight and held up with what kind of lenses I'm going to
sure.
get,
Sure.
what kind of cameras I'm going to buy, instead of saying that, like, hey, look, how am I going to produce this film? How am I going to find
Yeah.
funders? How am I going to, because the process is exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever I'm doing in my tech company, I'm almost doing 100% the same thing in my filming
Yeah.
company as well.
Yeah.
Because my job is to find funding, my job is to logistically manage from end to end, my job is to speak to clients, to speak to the funders, and make them inspired with the work that we do,
Yeah.
in hopes that they'll give us more money to do more work in the future as well, which is almost exactly what I'm doing in my other companies too. So like, yeah, I felt that like, although, I had to go through that whole thing, with, engineering school and all of that, if I did have a little bit more experience on entrepreneurship and had the taste of trying some entrepreneurship endeavors at a younger age, I think my life would be pretty different right now.
Mm,
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. How would you like to die?
Okay, as in after I die or when I die?
The way you
The
want to
way I
die.
want to
Yeah.
die. Okay,
You
of course
hope to die.
in my sleep.
Yeah.
That would be the best,
Yeah.
right? But in extension also, like I I feel that like is okay, I'm not trying to sound morbid, but it's not to say that like I'm okay to die anytime now. But I've reached that stage that I've done more than 15 things in my life that I thought if I did, I would die a happy man.
Mm,
And
understand.
once I've done it, I'm already like, okay, actually I'm pretty all right.
Yeah. Anything can happen now.
Anything
You
can
still.
happen now,
Yeah.
and I'm still going to be like, okay, I had a good
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
I've done what I wanted to do. And I mean, I'm only 35 this year, like, and I felt that I've achieved like a lot. So I'm not pressuring myself to like achieve so much more,
Mm,
but I am wanting to reach that achievement and all of that
understand.
as well. But for me, what happens after I die, that's a little bit more interesting, because since I'm not so driven by faith or
Yeah.
locked to any faith, right? I would like to be cremated and then planted together with the seeds of a durian tree. So
Oh.
hopes that like it grows, because I love durian, and
Okay. Yeah.
like
Makes sense.
yeah, and then everyone can enjoy eating my durians.
Nice
Yeah,
legacy
yeah, leaving
somehow.
a legacy behind. Yeah.
Nice. Now, what is your motto in life?
Um, my motto in life. Once upon a time, it used to be tough times don't last, but tough
Yep.
people do. But like, I feel that kind of makes it like I'm just preparing for the toughest parts in life, so it
Yep.
kind of gives like a bit of a negative feel to it. But like, I I have this motto that like I used to have from I used to hear from my American boss back when I was working in Petronas. Well, he used to tell me in his most, Texas accent, it's like, if you got a problem that money can solve, you ain't got a problem. You know what I mean? So like I just feel that like if there are problems that money can solve,
Yeah.
honestly, you don't really have a problem.
Yeah.
You just have to like work hard enough
Yeah.
to reach that,
Yeah.
right? And if you still do have that problem, then I don't think the problem is the money. The problem is maybe how you are setting the expectation, or how maybe you can like slice and dice your supposed achievements that you're supposed to reach, your targets that you're supposed to reach, and
Mm.
stuff like that. So this kind of gives me like a good way to deal with what I need to deal, because all I deal with is money, being the CFO
Yeah.
and handling
Yeah.
finances and all of that. So a lot of CFOs or a lot of like finance people would have the concept of financial controller rather than chief financial officer
Mm.
or strategic
Yeah.
financing, because the idea of like having the access to all the finances that you can is supposed to make you understand the risk factors that you can take on, and it's supposed to give you a bigger risk appetite as
Yeah.
well. It shouldn't be counterintuitive to say that if I'm the CFO, I'm the type who holds back
Yeah.
money. Actually, I'm the CFO, I'm the type that like if you can explain well to me and you say you need 20K, I'll give you
Your
50K
funds.
so that
Yeah.
I can like scale it
Yeah.
further, because I'm looking at how we want to make it big
Yeah.
faster,
Yeah.
and if I'm convinced here, we can basically get it over
Mm.
there. So that's why I believe that like if you have a problem that money can solve, we ain't got a problem.
Okay. I
Yeah.
understand.
Hmm.
All right. So you have reached the 35 personal questions.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay.
How do you feel?
Good, good.
Good?
That went by pretty fast, or I don't know, maybe I was just talking too much. Yeah. I was
No,
having
but
a lot of fun
it's
with it. Yeah.
flowing. It's
Yeah.
flowing usually.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna go into your company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit shorter because it's for me the podcast is all about you, but we
Mm-hmm.
want to know about EB Tech somehow. So first, I would like you to do the 1 minute elevator pitch.
Okay, sure. Okay, so Evolving Brilliance Technologies, Nuremberg, comes from like a small town of Kuching, Sarawak, but we have actually scaled into 5 different countries, including Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, and Indonesia as well. What we basically do is we are the land asset management, leveraging a land asset management platform, leveraging on Vision AI and satellite technologies to basically allow us to fully leverage on these tools to provide the best AI solutions for sustainability and for carbon development projects as well. In essence, we have been scaling and growing since the year of 2022. And we are very happy to say that like we have basically garnered a lot of interest, not just from the state government of Sarawak, but also from the federal side, as well as governments of Indonesia and Thailand as well, where we work very closely with them. We are basically in the midst of like doing our next round of fundraising, which is in pre-series A, with hopes that like our one of our main funders is basically going to be like a state government agency called SDEC, and we're hoping that like over time we can do a lot more, not just state level implementation work, but also some global impact work as well through our platform and through the projects that we are doing. And in essence, basically, keeping our main motto in place as well, which we are basically focusing on people, planet, and prosperity.
Mm.
Right. So my ending words would be remember to evolve brilliantly with evolving brilliance.
Yeah, nice.
Hmm.
Okay. Now let's go deeper with 4 questions. First
Hmm.
one is why are you on Earth for as an organization?
Okay, so when we started, you're talking about EBTech
Yeah, yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
Okay, so when we started EBTech, we started off as like an agri-tech company providing solutions to solve not just manpower issues but also efficiency issues in the palm oil sector. All right, so me coming from a background of palm oil plantation as well, along with my dad, as well as like palm oil being one of like the very important sectors for Malaysia, was a very key factor to why we felt that like our access or our focus towards this part of the business was important to also include food security and all of that as
Mm.
well. What happened was that we slowly evolved to see the bigger picture a little bit, realizing that a lot of like the assets that we have and own and manage through our platforms allows us to also see vegetation index. It also allows us to see the amount of carbon being sequestered, the amount of greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that. It's very similar. You have to use the same parameters in order to go there.
Yeah.
But here you make a much bigger impact, because here you're not just talking about like palm oil plantation owners and stuff. Here you're talking about like giving socio-economic deliverance and support to places which are actually having problems and issues with sustainability, with forest management, with land management,
Yeah.
and all of that. And now to fund these programs, there is like a very big fine or tax to these big companies that are emitting all of this GHG. So incentivized sustainability has to kind of be the way to go. It's very difficult to make these people change overnight. It's very difficult to make them move away from fossil fuel like just suddenly like that. And even imposing like a huge tax on them, some of them can just pay it off.
Mm.
It's not really that big a deal. So they have, I mean, the world organizations, has come up with a system and a way to say that like you cannot just pay off this tax. The only way you can pay off this tax is by investing in
Yeah.
sustainability projects in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So then we realized that not only do we have the tech to allow this to happen, my background and my founder's background, we're both from the engineering side. We realized that arranging the whole supply chain through our process flow diagram mindset became very evident. We can totally do this as well. And this just increased our scale by a lot, because we're no longer just a SaaS company. We're also a project services company.
Mm-hmm.
We've become full stack and become sort of end to end in a
Yeah.
way, sort of EPCC, but more on like on the environmental and
Yeah.
the sustainability side of things. So that's when we realized that, damn, this is our true purpose on this
Okay.
earth. So yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Iteration journey here.
Yeah.
So, what people do you want to resonate with? Your core target audience here.
Okay, so I want to resonate with people who believes in the people, planet, and prosperity. We used to call it people, planet, and profit, but people are like, oh, yeah, profit,
Mm.
whatever.
In social
It's
impact and
yeah, social
impact
yeah.
is.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing, right? When we gain like social impact kind of profit or social enterprise kind of profit, it is for the prosperity of
Yeah.
all at the end of the day, right? So we just like change the terminology a bit. So people, planet, and prosperity, and anyone who sort of has the mindset or the idea towards wanting to learn more about this, to talk more about this, and basically to connect. Through connecting, you would realize who you can synergize with, or you would see other people that would be good synergy partners for one another. I would say more than 60 to 65% of the time, synergy partners are met by an external party helping these two to synergize together. Not all the time you would see a direct synergy.
Mm.
We have like a lot of ego, we have a lot
Yeah.
of like things like stopping us. Sometimes not just ego, sometimes even imposter syndrome. We don't think we are so great. We don't think that we are really up there yet.
Yeah.
When actually we are pretty amazing. But you need a third party to see it and say that like you have to connect with these people. That's how you get from A to G.
Mm.
You're not just going from A to B or A to
Yeah.
C, you know? Yeah.
Okay. Now, how different are you from your competitors?
One thing for sure is that like most of our competitors, they are either they're either like project developers or they're either tech providers. We are both. And on top of that, we also come with our funding as well, because through our fundraising journey, we are able to garner a lot of interest, not just in equity funding, but also in project financing and project funding as well. And I think with my pretty decent experience and decent relationship that I have with state government agencies, especially in Sarawak, and financial institutions, we are using this to leverage our scaling factor to be a lot more, what's the word for it? Exponential compared to like our competitors.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And last question, what do you promise to those people that you want to resonate with?
Um, well, I promise basically to have the same level of prosperity or more shared amongst all of us, because like the idea is that everyone has a reason. We have the Maslow's triangle to see that you are trying to reach self-actualization and all of that, right? I just feel that like a shared prosperity mindset as we go beyond just self-actualization is kind of the way to go as well.
Understand.
I'm not going to promise them that they will be self-actualized in this journey with me, but a shared prosperity is something that I can definitely put on the table and say that like if you believe me in this journey and you are with me throughout this whole thing, synergizing well, having the same mindset, being in the same wavelength, I'm sure we can reach that that amazing goal of shared prosperity for the world. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So now, last part is the hot news. Anything you want to share with us that we haven't yet?
Okay, so we'll be releasing our ECF campaign, our equity crowdfunding
Yeah.
campaign via Pitchin. It was supposed to be early this year, but we are still in the midst of settling some due diligence things with like the state government and all of that. So we are probably looking at potentially Q3 to Q4 of this year,
Okay.
where we'll be raising some funds. So do check it out, guys, on
Yep.
Pitchin,
We'll
right?
put that into the
Yeah.
link.
And like once we start the campaign and all of that, this campaign will not just go towards like the equity funding of the company, but also we will show like a lot of the projects that we are working on in these different regions that I was mentioning earlier, and how they are basically going to be scaling up from a socio-economic kind of benefit as well. Other than that, we have also recently won the JETRO Japanese Fast Track Challenge,
Hmm.
where we work with a Japanese corporation, and they have been very kind to work with us on a couple of pilot programs where they
Nice.
own a satellite,
Yeah.
and we can basically use all of their satellite imagery and their satellite
The data.
technology,
Yeah.
yeah, to speed run and to like speed up our process of like our carbon sequestration and our carbon
Nice.
development work as well. And in return, we just have like some revenue share with them, or we share the carbon credits that we generate at the end of the game,
Mm.
right? So this basically opens up so much more potential, collaboration and opportunities to work not just with us, but also with other agencies and other startups as well. So yeah, do keep in touch with us for that,
Nice.
so we can see how we can potentially work together for that.
Wow. Nice. So wishing you all the best
Thank you,
for the next
Vanessa.
project. I feel there's lots in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on the
Of
podcast as
course.
well, and I really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you.
I think I was at the beginning stage, like probably a little hesitant to like get really into it, but I think like the pros questions were, were probing enough to get me into like
See?
sharing. Maybe I felt this could have been like a mini therapy session for me as well, which I love.
Exactly so,
Yeah,
right?
which I love, which is nice, and I also appreciate you letting me speak
Of
and
course.
getting
I
everything
told
out.
you it's your
Yeah.
personality here that should express. So,
Right. Yeah. And thank you very much for that. I
no, of
very much
course. My
appreciate it.
pleasure. I'm really glad
Yeah.
to finally meet you, sit down,
Mm-hmm.
because usually it's just like hello, bye, something like this.
Mm-hmm. Very
So for
touch and go,
once,
right?
yeah, right,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
high surface
Mm-hmm.
networking. So nice to pretty much like know so much better about the personality and how that is transferring onto what you're doing, which
Mm-hmm.
is basically one of the objective also of this show.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Enjoy
Yeah.
your, so not so soon, I guess, returning back to Kuching,
Yep.
but
Yep. Yeah.
when you do that, enjoy Sarawak for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Right.